You know what I think would make a pretty cool little product? A post-it notepad with a 9x9 board printed on it. You could use it to play a 9x9 game anywhere you go using the pencil and paper method, where you erase captures and just draw and scribble in white and black stones. And then when you're done with the game, you can just rip off the post-it note and start a new one. You could also use it to maybe write down life and death problems, either ones that are your favorites that you might want to share with someone, or maybe a problem that you just can't quite get and you want it to linger for a while, and you just put it next to your desk. Or you can even have other people try to solve it as they come by your desk. You could even use that little post-it notepad to aid in memorizing Joseki. I think these are all really cool, nifty ways to use a post-it notepad, and it would be really cool if something like that existed. Well, if you agree with me, you're in luck, because that is the latest addition to the store.starpointpaduk.com. I just added a simple 9x9 board on a post-it notepad, colored it like a Gobon, and boom, I got myself a copy, and it looks pretty nifty, I would say. So if you're interested in that, go to store.starpointpaduk.com, and you can go ahead and take a gander. You're listening to Starpoint, the show about Go, for Go fans away from the board. And I have watched the AlphaGo documentary on YouTube many times. It's available for free if you haven't checked it out. Like, what are you waiting for? But I was watching it yet again recently, and I was noticing how Lee Sedol is kind of like this Superman, right? He's I know Superman's not really a human, but he is this representative of this game who is just basically at the pinnacle. And then DeepMind, on the other hand, is like a team of humans that built this mech robot to defeat Superman. And this kind of drama, I think, is so exciting to watch, and it's always a pleasure to see this kind of interplay between showing the people rooting for Lee Sedol and the humanity part to win, and then the other team working together and hoping for the win within their little group, because they've worked on something, not necessarily on being good at Go, but being good at creating a program that is good at Go. And so having these two starkly different approaches and perspectives and experiences compete against each other is such an interesting tale. And I've noticed, every time I watch this documentary, I notice Lee Sedol's determination and confidence. It's so admirable, the way he presses forward. Of course, if you've seen it, you know that he starts off a little lofty. He starts off thinking, there's no chance that he's going to lose, even a single game, right? And then it starts to kind of get worse, right? He loses the first game, and then he's a little shaken up by that. And then he loses the second game, and then he loses the third game, and it's just almost, at that point, it's almost like all hope is lost, and everybody's kind of very dismayed at that point. People who are rooting for Lee Sedol, everyone's shocked, but he somehow manages to keep his effort and perseverance up, and I don't know how he did it, because personally, if I was in that situation and I lost to the AI like twice, I would be like, this thing is impossible to beat, and I don't think anybody could beat it. And I think that's the perspective I would take. I wouldn't really feel like I had a chance, and especially after 3 wins for the AI, I would think, man, this is something else, and I don't think I can do this. But somehow, Lee Sedol is just trying so hard, and eventually is able to eke out the win on Game 4. And I just think that's super admirable, the way he's able to continue to believe in himself. And it reminded me of this psychological experiment that was done back in the 60s regarding learned helplessness. Now, if you recognize that term, you probably know what experiment I'm talking about. If you don't recognize the term, to put it basically, it is a type of helplessness that is taught or learned over experience. So it's not real helplessness necessarily, but something that is internalized. So this experiment was done in 1967 by Seligman and Meyer. And just a little warning, it is a little bit disturbing because this is a little bit before certain ethical principles were put into place regarding scientific experiments. It's, I guess, would nowadays be called animal abuse, but we did learn something from these experiments. So basically, what they did was they had a couple groups of dogs, Group A and Group B. And they had the dogs on an electrified cage. And the difference that they gave each dog is that the shocks for Group A would be controlled by some kind of mechanism. I don't know if it was, I think it's probably a button or something. So Group A can basically learn, oh, if I press this button, the shocks will stop. Group B, on the other hand, had no control or influence on the shocks whatsoever and was just continually shocked. So this is kind of messed up, right? But eventually what happened to Group B is that they just resigned themselves to getting electrically shocked, and whenever the shocks would come, they would just whimper and give up, and they just lay down and whimper. So that's the first part of the experiment. In the second part of the experiment, they didn't release anything. They they gave access to the dogs to a part of the cage that was not electrified. It was kind of like a divided area, and then they would start off in the electrified area. Group A, the one that was able to control their shocks by pressing buttons or whatever and influence their environment, as soon as they were put in this new environment and they started getting shocked, they hopped over the barrier into the other zone that was not electrified, and they were able to freely escape. Very easy, right? Because, you're getting shocked, it's uncomfortable, you're going to try something, you're going to be like, oh, okay, it's not going to shock me over there. The surprising thing about Group B's reaction, however, is that even though they had an opportunity to move somewhere else in the cage where they wouldn't be shocked, they didn't even try because they had learned that they were helpless no matter what they did. This experiment was repeated in a human format. Before you get worried, it was not with electrical shocks, but in 1975, Seligman did another experiment regarding with puzzles. Okay, so there's no physical abuse or of any kind, but this could possibly be mental, psychological abuse. So what they did was they had two groups of people, like in the dog experiment, and the first group, they gave them a puzzle. I don't know what exactly puzzle, but some kind of thing with knobs and things like that. And they gave this puzzle to both groups, except the difference was the second group got a puzzle that was actually solvable. The first group had a puzzle that just wasn't solvable at all. So they gave these groups these puzzles, and obviously with some perseverance, the second group was able to solve some of these puzzles. First group, there's no solution at all. There's no way to solve it. So they just basically eventually just kind of spiraled out of into frustration, thinking they couldn't do it. They're not smart enough to do it. They, some of them even teared up and said things like, I don't know why I can't do it. I guess I'm not smart enough. I guess I'm just bad at this kind of thing. And so, yeah, even this experiment's pushing the ethical boundaries, even though there's no physical pain involved. But the second part of the experiment, both of the groups were given a puzzle that was pretty easy and solvable. Of course, the group that was given the puzzle that was solvable initially was able to solve it with ease, but the group that was given the unsolvable puzzle at first wouldn't even try to solve that second easy puzzle because they had internalized failure so deeply that they just thought they would fail already. And the messed up thing about this experiment is that actually led to some long-term effects. Seligman would try to redeem himself by doing some experiments to reverse the damage that had been done by giving maybe achievable tasks to kind of coax the individual's way out of this learned learned helplessness. But although these experiments are ethically questionable and just not something that any scientist nowadays would do, but it still taught us something about our psychology and how we respond to failure, especially when it is repeated and a failure that we cannot climb out of. And this has many applications in the real world. Whether somebody is in an abusive relationship and they can't get out of it, or they're in a poverty-stricken economic status, they may not believe that they can come out of that. Or it could just be school or work. You feel like you just can't, you can't seem to get the good grades, you can't get the raise after so long, after a lifetime of disappointment and that kind of thing. And you just don't try anymore to get out of these situations. Does this apply to Go? I think obviously not as severe as the examples that I've been talking about, but I think we all fall into this kind of learned helplessness now and again. I certainly do. And I think that we often approach this game while putting limitations on ourselves. I think the most common for me is when I play a stronger player, I think I don't apply myself as much because I just resign myself to the fact that there's something that they understand that I don't, and I don't know how to get that wisdom, so I don't think I'm going to try as hard because I just don't think it would be worth it. Like, thinking during this game, it's probably a waste of energy. I'm probably not thinking the right things. They're probably 10 steps ahead of me. And I think this happens to me a lot when I'm facing stronger players. And I think the moment that I realize that I can beat a stronger player is a huge moment. It's like gods can bleed type of moment where I normally think that I wouldn't be able to win against this person, but maybe that day I was having a good day. And maybe I was playing a decent game that day, and I was just trying my best, even though I have this kind of subconscious resignation. But they make a mistake, and I realize I see something that puts me up ahead against them. And then this light bulb goes off, and I realize I can maybe beat this person. And after that, you believe in yourself more, and it lasts. If I have never beaten a certain rank player before in my whole life, what makes me think that I can ever beat them, right? But if I have beaten them just one time, then it is a glimmer of hope, and it makes me think, man, it's actually possible. This is not that unreachable. But not all of us experience that breakthrough moment, that ceiling that we feel that is so heavy above us. And if you don't experience that moment for a while, then you may resign yourself to just, I can't get to that rank. That rank is just unreachable for me. And I think it's especially true when we play using AI. So I think that's the big thing here. With AI coming in on the scene in this AlphaGo versus Lisa et al. Match, this being now exists that knows so much more than us, and it will always be better than us. And so with that hovering over our minds, I feel like some of us may think that we can never exceed that, and we shouldn't even try to touch it because it's just so much better. And I think that's what happens sometimes when we review with AI and when we try to use AI as a tool. We become subservient to the AI. Instead of asking questions for ourselves and trying to solve the puzzle like the people in the experiment, we realize that puzzle is so difficult to solve because we've seen how AI reacts to things. We don't understand it. Every time AI does something, we're just like, what is that? Why? And because of that, we don't try, and we just check the AI move and we just look at it and we go like, okay, and then we go back to our game instead of critically trying to figure out what we think and what our opinion is on the game, and then asking AI to enhance that type of learning. Instead of that, a lot of times we just basically go to the AI and we become subservient to the AI. And I think this applies not just to the Go AI tools, but all the AI tools that are emerging nowadays. You know, if you go to ChatGPT and you're trying to write an email with it, you might think like, oh, ChatGPT is, you know, better at phrasing these things, so I'll just resign myself to ChatGPT. I'll let it do the work for me. When in reality, you have all of the situational awareness and the human experience to write a good email, and ChatGPT is a great tool to enhance and assist with that. But you should be at the helm, and so. Same with the art, the visual art aspect of it, and the music creation and all that stuff. All starting with this amazing pivotal moment where AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol. When we think like this, and when we internalize our failures and we start to speak down about ourselves, how do we be more like Lee Sedol in the situation where he's found 3-0 against, I guess, 0-3 against AlphaGo? And how are you able to carry on and push through with determination and find a win or find improvement or progress when it seems like nothing like that is possible? One of the things that we can do, I think, is first quiet that negative voice that you have. If you hear yourself saying, I'm always going to be terrible, you know, I've seen a lot of Reddit posts of people complaining about not being good at the game and telling themselves that they are terrible at the game. Here's how I want to approach the this kind of negative self-esteem talk that you have. It may be difficult to quiet those voices down, right? It may be quite difficult to stop yourself from thinking this way. So stopping yourself from thinking negatively starts with something a lot easier, which is stopping yourself from saying negative things about yourself with your voice, or even when you're typing comments. If you're saying stuff like, I can't be good because I started too late, I'm never going to understand this game is too hard, and you find yourself saying these things out loud, well, the first step you can maybe take is to stop saying them out loud and keep them internal. That should be easy enough for you to do. The second step is to try to nip it in the bud and stop from even thinking those thoughts. And maybe even go the other way around. Start telling yourself like, hey, if I lose this game, I can use that to improve. Say things like, I am just working out some of the difficulties with this game, and I'm determined to get better. A lot of these things that are said by commenters of those negative people, right? Those negative people who say like, oh, I suck at this game, I'm never going to get any good. And then, you know, the community is great, and they come together and they tell them like, hey, like this game is hard, but you know, there are things you can do. Give me a game. Let me review a game for you, right? And people are very generous with that. So I think it's important to quiet that negative voice, first starting with the tangible, the audible, and the, you know, typing away and stuff like that. Try to catch yourself, and then you can start catching yourself whispering these things. I think a lot of times when we don't necessarily say "I suck" out loud, sometimes we'll catch under our breath. We'll go like "I suck," you know, and then that will add to your negativity. And then once you can control those elements, then you can try to stop thinking that way, and then you can turn it into a positive light. Try to shape your attitude Because guess what? You think Lee Sedol was thinking, I can't do this after game 3? I honestly would have thought, I can't do this. I mean, this is crazy robot, right? No one's ever played this. No one's ever beaten this robot, and it's just hammering down on these games, and it just seems to like know more than me, and it's playing so strangely. It doesn't play like a human. I would have given up, honestly. But Lee Sedol is just like, how do I win? How do I win? I can do this. And he feels like a representative of humanity, and that determination carries through. Another thing you can tell yourself is that everyone who is stronger than you was once as weak as me. Even the strongest of players like Lee Sedol. And of course, to turn and spin the losing factor of it all is just to say, if you lose, you learn, right? If I lose, I learn, and try to put more effort into the learning aspect of it. Another thing you can do is to just be persistent. If you're on a losing streak, don't let that stop you. Everyone goes on losing streaks, but every losing streak ends. Obviously, there is a time to take a break, take a step back from the Go board. If you're getting emotional about it, if you're getting frustrated, it's kind of eating away at your mentality, then yeah, sometimes it's good to take a break, but don't let it discourage you. Don't let it tell you that you will never win again, because you will win again if you're on a losing streak. If you're stuck at a certain rank, like I have been, keep playing, keep studying, and keep reviewing. Try to light that flame of motivation again, and maybe one day you'll see the next rank, because I've been at plateaus before, and it just comes out of nowhere to improve, break out beyond 12Q or wherever you are at. And it comes from just being persistent and playing games. And I never really know what exactly I did that made me higher rank, but it's just something that comes after you are being persistent, after you keep trying to improve. And this applies not only to like the long term with the rank, but also even during an individual game. I think a lot of people, they don't hang on to their desire to win enough. I've talked about this a little bit. It's been a while, so I don't really remember what I said, but in the importance of winning episode, I think that when people play a game, they should really want to win. And if you find yourself giving up a little too early, especially if you find yourself giving up, resigning, and then you see the AI evaluation tell you that you're even, or even worse, you're ahead, then you really need to think about like how badly you want to win and how much you're doing to get that win. Sometimes, even when all hope is lost, you can sometimes squirm your way into a victory. That's happened to me many times because I, for some reason, have that deeply ingrained in me. I just... it's not to say that I never resign. I definitely resign sometimes, but there's a moment when I know it is a resign game, which is like when the game is, it has to have two factors. I think one is I have confidence in my opponent's ability to carry this through to the end. Two, I think one thing is like all the Aji is gone. Like I've used up all the Aji to try to win this game, and there's no more Aji, right? If there's Aji still in the board, and then you can still use some of that to see if you can make something happen, even if it's the smallest bit of Aji, like stuff that you don't think will make a difference, but it's there, then I may still try to do something. But, if all the Aji's gone, I'm confident in my opponent's abilities by what they've demonstrated throughout the game. I will then, at that point, I'll resign. But I generally really, really cling on to the fact that maybe my opponent will make a mistake at some point, and I make them really earn it. And so if you're doing these things, I feel like it's harder for you to learn helplessness and be stuck at a certain place thinking that you won't be able to move on, because you will break out. And if you still have struggles breaking out of that rut, you can do things like if you're afraid of rank anxiety, you can create a new account. If you stop playing games because you don't want to mess up your rank, if you're scared of people at your rank, then make a new account on OGS or KGS or wherever, TiGem, Fox, etc., and just play Go, right? The last thing I'll suggest for you to do is playing bots. Like I don't think that's really necessarily the way to break out of your rut, but I think it's better than nothing. Another thing you can do is do some easy life and death problems. Just get in the flow of solving problems and telling yourself like, hey, I can do these. I can solve some of these. Really make sure they're easy. Don't challenge yourself too quickly, too hard, and then discourage yourself all of a sudden. Last thing you can do to change things up is change the kind of games you're playing. If you're playing a lot of online games, maybe get out there, get a board, and play somebody in person. If you're playing at the club all the time and you've never played online before, but you're feeling kind of like stuck and you never beat the people at the club, maybe play an online game or two. You'll find out by changing up your environment that maybe you've learned more than you thought. You can even change up the speed of your games. If you're playing a lot of quick games and you keep losing, maybe it's time to slow down, play some longer games, play some correspondence games. On the reverse, if you're playing only the serious long games, play some quick games. Know that these games can be very casual and easy to get in without really putting as much attachment to them. So it's a great way to expose yourself to the game in other ways. And I think by doing these things, we can kind of make ourselves rut proof. So we're not stuck talking negatively to ourselves and teaching ourselves to be helpless in these situations and telling ourselves that we'll never improve and never win the game. In the topic of AI, I also I always think about these things, and I think maybe as time goes on, more tools with AI will come out that will make it less of a mysterious god telling you which move is correct, which is what the state of it is right now, right? Because you just kind of present the Go board to the god of AI, and AI says this move is the move, and then that's all it really says. It's like you don't know anything else. It's like in the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you ask the computer what's the meaning of life, and it's like 42, and you're just like, I don't know what that means. So unfortunately, I can't do anything with that information. So thinking about stuff like that makes me really think about where AI is headed and where I want it to head. And with the advent of ChatGPT coming out and stuff like that, I mean, I think the next step is very obvious. It's the marriage of LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., and the neural nets of Go AI. They're already pairing LLMs with other processing, like the image processing. You know that when it generates images, it's actually translating your request into an image creation bot that creates the image. And I think that's sometimes you'll see a big disconnect between the two, as if they're like two different brain hemispheres that are disconnected. But you can see how they've tried to incorporate different senses. And so I think the same thing can be done with SGF files and language processing, especially with a library of commented games by professionals and amateurs alike. I think the AI could make correlations with these moves and learn from itself playing games of Go with the neural net, and then figure out what it is appropriate to say for each move. And how amazing would it be for me to hane a stone, and then the AI tells me why this is a bad move, and says, oh, you shouldn't hane here. There's an urgent move on the other side of the board. That group needs to live, and it needs one more move to live. Even something small as that would be such an amazing tool. Would really be something, I think. if that's possible. So the people at AI Sensei and OGS and you know, wherever anyone's working on AI stuff, if you can get something like that to work, that's the big bucks. Honestly, you should probably go work for the chess engines because that's where the big bucks are, not in Go. So maybe we'll lean on chess to figure that out, and then we'll incorporate. So just like how chess leaned on Go to figure out AlphaGo and took AlphaZero and then enhanced the world of chess AI, we can ask them for a favor. Hey, since you guys have more people, more money over there, you can just develop an LLM chess stockfish AI that tells you exactly what the AI is meaning by the suggested moves, and then we'll take it back into our Go world. I'll leave you with a couple scary thoughts, scary AI thoughts. One of them is one I had that during the movie AlphaGo versus Lee Sedol. When Lee Sedol wins in Game 4, everyone's like so happy that humanity has gotten one, and Lee Sedol is ecstatic, and he's telling everyone like, "There's, you know, first I wanted to win all of them, but this one win is everything to me." But it was later found out that the legendary wedge move played in that game. Oh, it's just also a shirt on store.starpointbaduk.com. Doesn't actually work. It's not a valid move according to stronger AI that analyzed it later on. So that gets me thinking, what if Lee Sedol won Game 4 not due to his own genius, but AlphaGo's failure? What if the win and the loss of each game was not in control of Lee Sedol to begin with? What if we're not in control of our destinies? We're not in control of our fates? That's a little bit of a scary thought for me. That like basically the drama that we play out in that documentary and in our lives may be decided by something else other than our own choices. I don't know how to finish that thought, but one thing I do know is that even if Lee Sedol beats a human being because of the human being's failure, it would not deny him the glory of the victory. So since the same thing could happen in a human game, sometimes the opponent makes a mistake, and that's why you win the game. The same thing could happen in a computer game, or a game against AlphaGo, or an AI, where the AI makes a mistake, and it's not the same kind of mistake as a human's mistake, but it is a mistake nonetheless. And so, I'll also say that the little hack that they found to beat AlphaGo, to exploit its weakness, I would say those are legitimate wins. But are they meaningful? That's the next question. Maybe not really, because it's not a display of Go skill. It's not a display of Paduk. It is a display of understanding your opponent, which is another skill for another time. And then all this AI stuff has got me thinking even more. It just kind of spirals my brain into all sorts of possibilities. Thinking about the future like this, well, one day I think we're probably going to see some cyborgs in our population. People integrating computer chips with their own minds. And I'm thinking when that day comes, cheating will be at a whole new level, and it'll be almost like steroids of the sports world, where you can't have cyborg human beings playing with regular old human beings because that's just not fair. Who knows when that day will come? It's exciting nonetheless to see all the future developments of AI and technology and how it impacts the world of Go. I don't think Shusaku could have ever seen anything like this world coming, so I'm excited to see what kind of world is coming for us. Let's learn to watch Paduk TV. Do you remember last week's word? Let me quiz you. How do you say Atari in Korean? Do you remember? It's tansu. This week, I'll teach you a word that sounds a little similar. 선수. So 선수 means sente in Korean. In Korean, on Baduk TV, you might hear the commentator say 선수를 잡고, which means after taking sente. 선수 also means player or athlete. So sometimes you'll hear them say, 선수 in a different context, and they may be using it to describe the players that are playing Go. Weirdly, when it is translated on captions or using Google Translate, it translates to professional knight, which I've never understood. But the Learn to Baduk Watch TV word today is 선수, which means sente, which is when you grab initiative and when you are, the one in charge. I always tell you guys that I love watching Go movies, and so I've watched The Surrounding Game and AlphaGo many, many times. And with the addition of Stone, or The Stone in English, it's called Stone in Korean, that movie I found on Tubi, I'm going to have to put that into my loop and watch these 3 Go movies for the rest of my life until the match comes out. By the way, regarding the Surrounding Game, the All Things Go podcast just wrapped up their 2nd season, and they did a fantastic interview with the creators of The Surrounding Game. I love that movie, so I really enjoyed that episode and getting to hear more about the details. And it really shows you how warmly the Go community comes together to make magic happen sometimes. That movie, it's the work of many amazing people putting in their efforts to make it happen. I also highly recommend, if you get the movie on Vimeo, you get it with some bonus footage. One with Cho Eun-yeon, the full interview of Cho Eun-yeon. I love that interview, and also the visit to the little Go club there. I think the vibes are so cool. So yeah, check that out. But now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is invade before it's too late. I was reviewing a game, and one of the players basically took one of the entire sides of the board, which is fine if you have another side of the board, but the other player wasn't comfortable with this whole side being taken and decided to wait until it was pretty much solidified before invading. You want to invade at the very last moment before it becomes solidified. You want to throw in a stone there before it becomes very hard to live in there, and then you end up dying. So watch out. Don't think that everything is urgent on the board. Question yourself. Don't always respond and try to take the center and escape and attack and things like that. If you really are not convinced it is urgent, sometimes the urgent move is taking that invasion and making sure your opponent doesn't get that huge swath of territory. So that's the tip of the day. Invade before it's too late. And now it's time for listener mail. Eric Lee writes, "Glad to hear you enjoyed my suggestion so much. I hope that next time the Awesome Baduk Masterclass gets more people interested in this kind of training. I found it to be very helpful in both getting better at Go and for reinvigorating my love for the game." Thanks for rating it, Eric Lee, and now that confirms that you are the Eric Lee, not the professional Eric Lee, but the one that has written in twice and been featured on 2 episodes. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that again because I haven't been able to get to memorizing a second pro game, but I really want to, so I'm going to try to do it. And thanks for that tip again. The question of the week this week is, do you have any learned helplessness in Go? Have you ever told yourself that you aren't able to rank up, or even in the middle of a game, have you ever told yourself you couldn't win when in fact you could win? Let me know about your experiences and thoughts on that question if you want to share, or you have an unrelated Go story to share, or you want to ask me a question. You can comment on this episode, or you can email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. And if you are a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and or a subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very special thank you to James B. and Tristan for supporting Starpoint. And if you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to ko-fi.com/starpointpaduk. That's ko-fi. Or get some Starpoint merch at store.starpointpaduk.com featuring the new 9x9 Koban post-it notepad. What's a ghost's favorite shape? Like a ghost, a spooky ghost. What's their favorite shape to play on the Go board? A bamboo joint. Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.